What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Different Views podcast. We appreciate all y'all for all the likes, comments, and our subscribers on YouTube. Keep liking, commenting, subscribing, and giving us y'all feedback. Like I said, we really appreciate it. We got a special guest on today. One I'm really excited to talk about, and actually our first woman on the Different Views podcast. We finally
What?
got a woman on here, man. We've been trying to get women on here, but
No
everybody
question.
been busy, I guess. But we appreciate you coming on for sure. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Sure. Hello, Different Views audience. My name is Deanna Speaks. I am a speaker, a trainer, and a consultant here in Ohio. And I'm excited to be the first woman, certainly not the last woman on the show. So thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate it for sure. Yeah, so like she said, Deanna J speaks. She's a motivational speaker, and she comes from Ohio. Didn't even know she came from Ohio. So everybody on here from Ohio. Again, y'all gotta
Okay.
stop hating on Ohio.
I'm
I always see
saying,
slander about Ohio, man. I would
hey,
never
man.
live there, but I'm gonna always rep it. I told him the other day, because I don't do winters.
I
I
know
like
that's right.
winter.
I'm looking at the snow right now, like, why am I not
Yeah,
out
I'm cool in
here?
the winters,
Yeah,
but I always rep Ohio. Like
yeah,
always, I love Ohio, like my people.
for
But
sure.
yeah, so let's just get a little background about yourself and like how you got into motivational speaking.
Sure. So I got into motivational speaking because I was asked to speak about my experience as a foster child. And when I did it, I realized like I'm telling a lot of my trauma, I'm telling a lot of my business, and y'all handed me a $25 gift card for an
Mm,
hour and a half.
yeah,
And I'm like, I really enjoyed this. I love the impact that it had, but also $25 ain't it.
right.
And so I was like, Lord, where would you have me go? Because if this is it, I don't think this is for me. And so my old caseworker reached out to me just to check and see how I was doing. And she was like, hey, man, would you come up to Cleveland? Like, I'll pay your gas. I really would like you to speak to the youth here. And that's how I got started. So that was my first official paid gig, probably like maybe 13 years ago now, maybe 14.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and finding that balance, like I kind of know what you mean. Like as far as, and I was the one giving out the prices, but as far as like me training, like I
Mm-hmm.
played in college and I played in NFL. So like people are always saying like you could charge this, you could charge that. And I'm like, nah, I don't really care to charge, you know what I'm saying, like that. But
Yeah.
it got to the point where I was training kids for free or like real minimum. And then I'm like, nah, like it's still my time and everything. And like
Yeah.
I know I want to be humble, but like, no,
Yes.
not no free workouts for all these kids. And I'm picking them up, taking them home. Like, so I just like, yeah, I gotta find a balance of like, yeah, I
Oh,
want to do this because I like to do it, but I still gotta make some money off of it. Like I gotta show
yeah.
my value too. So I know what
Yeah.
you meant by that for sure.
Yeah.
So what made you want to be a motivational speaker? Like, what made you want to like say or express your story? Like, express how you feel? Because I know a lot of people they're scared to do that. Like, so what made you want to do that, and what helped you to want to do that?
So what made me want to do it is because, to be honest, I felt like there wasn't enough of us in those spaces. So, like right now, I feel like I'm seeing a lot more women. I'm seeing more people of color. But to me, and maybe it's just because when I was starting out, I didn't see it. I feel like I knew Les Brown. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
else I knew that was a motivational speaker didn't look like me. They didn't come from where I came from, and I felt like that's a subset of people that need somebody to talk to them about getting it out the mud. Everybody
Yeah.
can't do that. It's easy to get up there, and it's no diss to people who talk about something different than I talk about, because I do talk about the standard stuff. I do talk about goals and motivation and resilience and things like that. But sometimes that message needs a different spin. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, if I, stood in front of a gun, or when my friends was killed by the police, or like my house caught on fire, like the things that I've experienced, and you get up here and you talking to me about resilience and you haven't been through the stuff that I've been through or something similar,
Right.
It's I feel like it don't hit the same. And so that's what made me want to do it. It's like, Lord, it must be some people out here that have gone through what I'm going through or gone through what I've gone through. And I want to be able to speak to them. And so I was praying about it like this, if this is what you have me do, um, I pray that you open doors for me. And it started to happen. And then I had to really overcome imposter syndrome because in my mind, I see so many things that would cancel me out because I just got my GED, even though now I have my master's degree. The fact that people automatically, some people don't read past GED to see I got my bachelor's, to see I got my master's, or the fact that I'm overweight, or that I'm black. I mean, I just have so many things in my mind that disqualified me. And I had to work through that. And the first thing that really helped me was honestly not learning about it, like naming it. Like, why do you feel like you don't deserve to be in these spaces? You
Call
did
that
well.
imposter syndrome.
Yes.
So what is that? I never
So,
heard that before.
yeah. So, imposter syndrome is where you feel unqualified. You feel like
Mm,
an imposter in a space despite having the pedigree, despite having
mm,
the knowledge, despite having the experience. And so
right.
even though I was a caseworker for 11.25 years, and I always say the 0.25 because I
Mm,
earned them, okay?
right.
But even though I did that and I got my bachelor's of science in social work, I was a licensed social worker, I did counseling, I did all the things, did training around speaking and coaching. And still, when someone would push back for a while, I would feel like I didn't deserve to be there.
Mm,
And so I had to learn about imposter syndrome and learn how to put stuff in place to really help me really push back against that.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
dope. You got a question?
So what'd you say?
I said you got a question.
Oh, so I want to go, kind of go back, not too far, but just kind of go back. When did you real like? How did you overcome, your background? Like, when did you realize, like, okay, I need to overcome these things, or if not, like, I won't be at the success that I'm at having, like, today, that you're having today.
Mm. I mean, honestly, I realized it early. Like, I grew up in a place in Ohio. It's called Greenbrier, Columbus. But, in the hood, we called it Uzi Alley. Like, the police didn't come here unless they was with people. Like, they came deep. You know what I mean? And just looking at that, I knew this wasn't it. I don't want to be like the women that my dad would warn me against. I didn't want to be like the women that my mom warned me against, for two totally different reasons. I didn't want that. And then I became a teenage mom. So by the time I was 16, I had two kids. And I knew that pretty much everybody I knew had written me off as a statistic. Even my caseworker was like, it's done. It's over for you. You don't need to try to dream about go to college. You need to just get a job. And so for me, it was like, I just knew that I shall have it. And so I just kept that focus. Every time I got knocked down, I was determined to get back up. I mean, Cardi B has this song and it's called Get Up 10. And I use it in my speeches a lot because it's like, even if you knock me down 9 times, I'm getting up 10. You know what I mean? And so that's just what I determined early on. And some things came along to reinforce that for me. But I just knew that I didn't want to struggle. I didn't want to be a crackhead. I didn't want to be a prostitute. I didn't want to be a drug dealer. I didn't want to be poor. You know what I mean? Just really seeing the things that I saw, I was like, no. And then when I got pregnant, I was like, heck no. I had to figure out what I had to do. And so that's what I did.
Kids, man, give you a different motivation. That shit.
For
It
sure.
ain't about just you no more. Like it's about
Right.
them kids. Like you gonna do anything you can to get them kids right for sure.
Right.
So as far as you saying like you you knew early, so now that you knew, like what was in your mind, like how to do it? Like was it like leaning on somebody? Like was there a mentor? Was somebody that helped you, or was it like you just found a way and your motivation was your kids, or like what was the defining factor of like how to push to something, how to start something, how did it get into something? Like what was that for you?
Honestly, I feel like the motivation changed. So when I was younger, It was, I didn't want to, I saw my mom, because she, my mom was old school, my dad was old school. So she had her own money, but she used to take care of the house. My dad gave her money whenever. But I felt like I didn't want that type of relationship. I didn't want the
Yeah.
drama that went with it. There was DV in my home. It was just unnecessary arguing. And so for me, that was my motivator initially. And then like school was an escape for me. So even though it was for real, like our apartments would get flooded, we would have to leave to go back. It was like rough.
Yeah.
I just felt like if anybody was going to save me, it was me. Cause my mom was a Jehovah's Witness. So even though now I'm a believer, but then it was like, it was a disconnect. So initially it wasn't even God. I mean, God clearly had a plan for my life, but initially it was like, I don't want to be what I'm seeing. Like
Yeah.
I want to do something different. I want to experience something different. And I just told myself that I was going to get it. And then when I got older, I was in foster care and I had to take care of my brother and sister. So it was like, I got to do this for them because I'm the second person in my um, family that has a bachelor's degree. And so I'm like, they need to see that it's something else. So you really ain't got to do the streets like that. Cause that's what,
Right.
we just went different ways. There's no this, we just went different ways. And then when I became a parent, it was, I want my kids to have a different life than I had. Like, I don't want them to have to worry about eating pantry food or sandwich shop food or, like bad food and we trying to guess if it's good. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's things that I went through that I was like, my kids will never
Right.
go through. And then my caseworkers told me basically to give up. And that was a motivator for a long time. Because she's like, you're just going to be a statistic. And I'm like, okay, I will be, but not in the way you meant it. And
Was it a white
so
lady or a black lady?
she was mixed. She was like high yellow. So I don't know. I assume she was mixed. I don't know if she
Yeah.
was mixed or black.
Okay.
But yeah, she wasn't white, believe it or not. Most of them were they just pitied me, like, oh, God bless
Yeah.
you. And I'm like, girl, why? I don't need your pity. Get the heck up out of here.
No,
So
that's wild. But
yeah.
so you do got a brother and a sister?
Well, I've learned I have several brothers and several sisters. My
How
dad was a
many? Because
Rolling
I do
Stone.
too.
Yeah. Papa was a Rolling Stone. The Temptations spoke from experience, and that was my dad's theme song.
You know how many you got or
Mm,
that you know of?
that I know of. Good. Okay, see, you saved it with that. I feel like I have 3 other sisters and 2 brothers. Wait, because I
Okay.
have 2. I have a sister and a brother here in the city I've never met.
Yeah. I got a
So,
brother out here that I never met.
yeah. So it's like, and it's sad because they're like 20 years younger than me. So they're just really getting started in life. And I'm like, I can't even find them. Like, I don't even know what they on. I don't remember their mom's name, nothing. And then I have
Yeah.
siblings that are in different spaces in the country because my dad traveled a lot. He was actually a cowboy. And he yeah, I feel like I have adult that are older than me. I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers. Younger than me, I have 1 sister and 1 brother.
Do you talk to any of them?
Only the ones I grew up with.
Is that
So I mean,
one brother, one sister?
yeah, I have 1 brother and 1 sister that I grew up with. We had a brother that died of SIDS when we were younger. And that was like the first time we were in foster care because mom lost it. You found your baby deceased.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I still talk to my brother and sister as much as we can. I feel like we have a fractured relationship. But I feel like my sister and I are trying. My brother now lives in Colorado, but my sister and I are trying. It's just, I feel like sometimes, if you break a glass and you have all the pieces, it still don't go back together
Yeah. Still
like
that
it was
friction there.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of how our relationship is.
Yeah. Well, I hope it gets better. I know.
Thank you.
Me having what I got 13 that I know of.
Okay,
And
13.
I'm the 14th. But I was telling him like I don't talk to all of them. Like I said, there's one here that I don't really know like that.
Mm,
There's a girl I never met, my sister, but like the
mm,
ones that I do talk to, we have like a group chat, and we don't even talk every day, but it's just like randomly we'll say like I love y'all or send old videos or whatever, like just to stay in contact. Because
mm,
I told them as well, like as far as my kids, I don't want them to grow up like the way I did, but as far
yeah,
as like me and my brothers and sisters, I want to make sure we stay tight too, because like our family, the older family, not tight and like don't be talking or nothing.
yeah,
So I'm like, we got to make sure we're tight, we're staying together, because our kids are gonna look up to us and see how we rock and see how we're together. So
right,
I definitely hope you can get that relationship back with any siblings that are willing to do it. Obviously, you can't make people do it, but I
right.
hope you get that relationship back for sure.
I receive it, appreciate it.
So, I kind of want to go back if you don't mind talking about it.
Yeah.
So like when like how was the whole like foster care situation? Like what like were you in foster care like your whole life, or because I know you said like you were with your mom and dad. Were you with like in foster care your whole life? And then to the second question I have for you, I saw your short clip when you were talking about like you were raising your siblings and the garbage bag um that you were talking about. So
Yeah.
that was my other question. So like, but the first question was like, when were you like in foster care? And then the second question was that the last situation that you had like with your sibling? Like, were y'all always together? My bad. I
Um,
kind of went everywhere with that. My
yeah,
bad.
yeah. So I'll answer the first question first, the second question first. No, we were not always together. And our memory is trash. So I feel like my brother was with us when we initially got placed in care the last time. My sister said he immediately left, but we were not together. So when we were in care the last time, I was in care 3 times. I had 3 touches, 2 times I think in care. One time it was a quick in and out. The last time I entered into care, I was 16 and I aged out of care. What that means is I, stayed in until I was 18. I was in Canton, and then my caseworker for the home lived in Cleveland. And so because she was the caseworker over 2 homes, we still got to see my brother from time to time. And so she would take us on trips because we had a foster parent that wouldn't let us sit on the furniture. We couldn't go in the refrigerator to get food. Had a designated section of food, and it was like, oh, snacks. And it's like, bro, you see us? Like, I'm 5'10". My brother is 6'5". Like, we're all trees. What are you doing giving us this old Chex Mix? Like, who you tripping on? And so that's how we kind of stayed connected. But then when I was 17, because that's kind of how I came into care. And if you want to know that, I'll tell you too. But so I've been working on something to get my own place. And so then I came back to Columbus. So I ended up in Columbus. My sister ended up in Plain City. She got moved from Canton. And then my brother ended up somewhere near Cleveland. And so we all aged out at different times and kind of found our way back together. So to answer your first question, I was in foster care a couple of times. The first time my mom went to bingo. Back in the day, it was like, don't open the door for nobody. Don't turn on the stove. Mom will be back. And we were used to it. We knew what to do. It was like, all right, well, see you later. We went on the bed like we were supposed to do. And I hear somebody coming in the window. So in the hood, in our apartment, like the ground floor, the window was where people's feet were. But it was tall enough that people could come through. And so one of their friends came through, and I walk out there and he's like, oh, yeah, your mom told me to come check on you. I'm like, come on, bro. Seriously?
Yeah,
She ain't tell you to come through no window. You all on her curtains, first of all. And because someone called the police, they saw him break in. And when they did that, the police took us to children's services because my dad was gone. He dealt cards for the weekends. My mom went to bingo. She wasn't far. She was right around the corner. But we stayed. I feel like it was just overnight. It might not even have been a full 24 hours. And my mom came and got us. The second time was when I kind of touched on it earlier, when my brother passed of SIDS. And so my mom, finding him in the crib, lost it. I still remember how she sounded screaming and yelling and stuff. And my dad wasn't supposed to be there, right? Because the system is doing what it's built to do. So they wouldn't let us stay with him. even though he had been there from my whole life. My dad raised me. But they said we couldn't stay with him because my mom was having a breakdown. Make that make sense. And so they removed us. At that time, I was with my brother. My sister went somewhere else. So we were there for about a year, came back together. That was rough because nobody tells you how to put your family back together. Like you separate, you learn a whole new household, whole new rules, and then you come back, all of you are changed, right? Because none of you are the same. And so we come back, and then by then, like my mom, she's like, I talked about the DV in the home. My mom was on drugs. My dad, she wasn't on drugs then. My dad was like an alcoholic, and so they always was beefing. And then my mom started using drugs, and it just continued this long slide. And so even though we were together now, things was really messed up. And so by the time we was 15, my mom had like went to jail, and I was taking care of my brother and sister. And the people kept coming out, which is the story you heard, and they said, listen, if we don't meet your dad, we got called people. And so it's like whatever. So when she came, it was like a Sunday at 2. And she's like, all right, your dad here? We're like, no. She's like, all right, well, you gotta go. And that's when she gave me that trash bag. So and then from there I was off. I was in care until I was 18 years old. Yeah.
I see why, like, you wanna get to that point, or not get to that point. You are at that point where you're speaking on it, and like you said, because there's people that are coming in and talking about resilience, talking about motivation and goals, and like, yeah, that's cool. No diss to them, like you said, but it's like
Mm,
you're not touching the spot in my heart or like my experience or what I'm going through.
mm,
So you got to add more people that are doing that, like, and that's why I said, like, before when I talked to you, like, I want to
yeah,
speak on my experience, like, because I played football, so I got people that come in and tell us their story or whatever, but it's just like a different story that somebody else is going through that may not be getting spoke about. Like
right.
I went through a rape case trial, like a sexual
Mm,
assault trial. I was
mm.
falsely accused of rape, and I
Oh,
went through it for
sorry.
5 years. I beat the criminal case. She filed a civil case right after, and I went through that for 4 years. And it's
Oh,
like it took that long for me to beat it, but
man,
I
you
could
where
have
your
did 10
sisters at?
years.
Where your
I
sisters
could
at?
have. My
Let me
sisters.
let me get your
Oh.
sister. Let me go find her for you.
It's crazy because my yeah, I had people like, man, I had people really like telling me like they was gonna take her out, like all type of shit.
Mm,
But there's just
mm,
like I was already mentally like, of course it fucked me up. Like I was like I wasn't depressed. I don't feel like I was depressed. Of course I was just like mentally like thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, man,
yeah,
because it's not in my fate. You know what I'm saying? It's in the court system, which is terrible. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So it's like I know I didn't do anything, but there's still a place in my mind like I could still get convicted, you know? I could
yeah,
go to jail for 10 years if I get convicted. And then in
yeah.
my civil case, like I could literally lose money that I need to take care of my family and stuff.
Right.
So and what's crazy is my sister, I know I won't say her name or nothing, but like she really went through a sexual assault case or a
Yeah.
sexual assault situation. And
Mhm.
or the guy was found not guilty and he actually did it. So uh, it really just like hit me hard with that, like more than anything, you know, because
Yeah.
this girl is out here lying on me and falsely accusing me of rape, and I have people out here in my family that have really been raped and got off, like, so you know what I'm saying. So, but as far as that, like, I want to speak on that to people. I want to go talk to teams because this happens to a lot of athletes. So I want to go speak to athletes, but not even just athletes. It happens to people in relationships. I've seen some that had a person in a relationship for like 7 years and then they go back and they break up or divorce or whatever, and then they try to say, oh, like they
Yeah.
were raping me, they were doing this. Like,
Yeah.
so again, to go back to what I was saying about you, like speaking on things that somebody else has went through, not just talking about the regular motivation, the regular goals, the regular inspiration. And yeah, that's all good, but like you have to have a different story and a unique story, like that somebody else is feeling, because
Mhm.
there's a majority of people that are going through like similar things, but there's a majority of people as well that are going through things that nobody talks about or that nobody's experienced
Right.
around the area that you're in. So that's definitely a reason why I wanted to start speaking the same way that you did. But I got a question about because I see like resilience on your bios and like I was reading like your story like on your page, like your summary about yourself
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, and I kept seeing like resilience, and I see
Mm-hmm.
like that, and I got resilience tatted on my hand because I felt like I've been through a lot of shit, and
Yeah.
I'm very resilient, and I preach that to like my kids, the kids that I train, and all that. And I wanted to just ask you, like, what does that word mean to you? Like, what define resilience for you, and like, what does that mean to you?
That's a good question. Resilience for me is the decision to keep getting up,
Mm,
the decision to stand on I shall have it. Like, everybody now is standing on business. And I'm
mm,
like, resilience is really standing on the commitment to I shall have it.
right.
Because, we as a society, I think, undervalue the commitment and the discipline. We undervalue it,
Yeah.
right? And it's like that is what resilience is built on. I feel like there's a couple things that support it, but when it
Mm,
comes to defining it, it's really a decision to keep getting
right.
up because the detours are going to happen, the setbacks are going to happen, the discouragements are going to happen, but you become resilient because you stay in the fight. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like you stay in it until you get your goal. Like, what does your press look like? Is one of the
Mm,
questions I asked on the speaker. What does your press really look like? There's this song that Fred Hammond sings, and it just simply says, I press. And it says, till I become what you want me to be. And it's like, until, you know how long until is? Like,
yeah.
like Tabitha Brown was in her until for like 20 years.
Yeah.
So what does your until look like? And so when we talk about resilience, when I talk about resilience, that's what I start with defining it. And it's really a commitment to the
Yeah.
decision that you shall have it, that you're going to
Right.
stay in the fight.
Yeah. Until
That's
it
what it means.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter how long it is.
No
That's what
matter how
I
long it
felt that.
is.
I
Yeah.
really felt that we said that because that's what it was with my case. Like I literally beat the case, the criminal case,
Yeah.
and then it's like literally she filed a civil case right after. And of course, I don't know nothing about court or nothing. I've never been to court
Right.
in my life. So when she filed, I'm like, I just won. Like, what do you mean she filed another case? Like, what does that mean? Like,
Like, where
so just
is
I just got to go through another case. Like, I could go to jail again, and they're like,
yeah.
no, it's just like it's money wise or whatever. But then I'm like, how does that work? Like, I beat the criminal case, like
Yeah.
because of lack of evidence and all this shit. So you're still telling me there's a case where they can still say I raped her? Like, how does that even make sense? And they're like,
Right.
oh, well, it's a civil case, whatever, whatever. But now I'm going through that for 4 years. It just keeps getting pushed back. We having meetings. They want me to settle this, and that. And it's just like it was until it happened.
Yeah.
Like I had to just keep fighting, keep pressuring, like
Yeah.
taking it to trial, all that, because they wanted me to settle. But it's just like, nah, I stayed in the fight until the
Yeah.
end, and I ended up unanimously winning. Like 8 out of 8 jurors found in my favor. Like she had to pay for
Who's
my
that?
lawyer fees, all that. So it's just like I could have
That's so
easily just
unfortunate.
settled. I could have easily gave in, you know what I'm saying? Like whatever. But it's just like, nah, I had to stay in the fight until it
Yeah.
happened. And I never knew when it was gonna happen. Like it got pushed back so many times. COVID, uh a judge died like that was about to do our trial, and then the second judge wanted to go on vacation, and I'm just like,
Her.
man, what the hell? Like
Yeah.
they got a
I
family
probably a little busy
vacation.
also. Yeah.
Yeah, just pushing my case back because you got a vacation. Like that shit is
Right.
crazy. But yeah, I just had to stay in the fight for real. So
Yeah.
I love that definition that you just explained.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Being a so I want to go back to like you said you were a teenage parent.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have like any advice for like the young parents now, like the teenage parents now in today's age? Because I feel like to like because we always talk about like our mothers and like they were young parents and like they had it by themselves. And like we always talk about how strong black mothers were like back in the day. And not saying that they're not now, but I feel
Yeah.
now they have so many excuses on why they can't do this and why they can't do that. And
Mm-hmm.
they want sympathy so much. And I
Mm-hmm.
get it, but I just feel like back in the day, like, or at least of course I was a kid, but like back in the day, I never heard my mom complain. I never see my mom cry. And not saying that she didn't, but I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So my question is like, what advice do you have like for the young mother who may be going through like hard times right now?
Sure. First is I feel like your mom probably cried. I think you should ask her
Yeah,
what.
that's what I said. That's why I was like, she probably
Yeah,
cried, just not in front of me.
yeah.
Like she probably
Because
did.
moms, we don't cry in front of our kids. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like we want to spare you that pain, and it's going to hurt most of the time if you see your mom crying anyway. So we don't want you to hurt in that regard, and we don't want you to know what's going on. We're trying to protect you. So I think that's why, women then didn't cry. And I think now women are more comfortable naming what's hurting them or what's wrong. But if that's not it and they are operating with excuses, I think the first thing is for them to decide or to really assess if you're healed. Because a lot of times I feel like parents don't value being a healed person before you have kids. Right. And so it's really easy for you to make decisions haphazardly, raggedy, disregarding, because you don't realize what the root of that is. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes there's a cause for your bad decision. Sometimes you just chose that. You knew you had all the available information and you chose against yourself. You know what I mean? Like people do that stupid stuff. But sometimes it's like, and certainly women do this and men do this too. It's like, if you don't heal in the areas that you're broken, you are going to bleed on your children and they didn't cut you. And so I actually wrote a book about for teen moms or for young moms rather. And there's so many elements to it that kind of support that. And one of them is talking about like establishing who you are as a person. Cause like I will never forget I was in church and someone said, "Hi, William and Talia's mom." It was a kid. And then the next day, or like, because I volunteered that night, the next morning, one of the teachers was like, "Hey, Tanya's mom, da 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 da." And it made me realize that I had gone so long with not being called my name. Like, my name is Deanna. Why are you calling me William and Tanya's mom? But it's like, there's things that you can do that can support you growing as a mom and as a woman so that you don't have to utilize excuses. And some of it is hard because it goes against what is comfortable. So a lot of
Comfortability.
times people choose what's comfortable and it's a compromise.
Mhm.
Compromises will always bring you comfort, but it's still a compromise. So if you're choosing something that's comfortable, it's going to be easier for you to fall into making excuses. And excuses also allow you to stay in those places where, it's easier for you. Like sometimes an excuse is because you want to justify a bad decision that you've made or, the way that you've
Man,
determined to live your life, which is, what I'm saying? You can do that. But if you ever desire to get past that, you got to be able to own your shit. Like you have to be able to own where you are broken so that you can get it fixed. And I know I talk a lot about God, but if you're not a believer, there's still work that can be done. Therapy is for real.
yeah,
Okay. If you need therapy, go to therapy. If journaling helps you, that's great. If prayer helps you, but you got to be honest with yourself about what hurts you. For years, I didn't realize that I didn't sing anymore because my mom has said something to me. I was 12 years old and it was so painful. It pierced me and I stopped singing except for like choirs and stuff, but I would never, and I didn't even really unpack it or give it any weight or value. So I was in therapy. You know what I mean? And so like, so all of that to say that if you are a person that's operating in excuses, and you don't want to be any further, you got to own your shit.
right. As far as you like saying, like you say you stopped singing
Yes.
because she like made you feel some type of way about singing, right? And then you said
Yes.
you went to therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and then the therapy helped you. Like, so as far as like the therapy, because people say therapy works, people say therapy doesn't work. Is
Mm-hmm.
it like therapy doesn't work because you still won't own your shit? And
In
I
my
feel like
opinion, yes.
that's what I was thinking. Like, I
In
feel like
my
it don't work because
opinion,
you still
yes.
go there and you don't really be honest with it. So it's like
Yeah.
that's why it
Because
don't
if you're
work.
not honest about, because even when they say something, now granted there are bad therapists, but
Yeah,
if you keep trying therapy, and it's not working, on some grown woman, on some grown man stuff. Like, what part of your 50%? Because even in any interaction, you only can own your part.
Right.
What about that exchange did you do well? You know what I mean? Like, what part were you honest when they said, Deanna, I feel like you are sarcastic because it's an easy way to dismiss your feelings? Did you write that off and say, I just like sarcasm, I think it's funny?
Yeah.
Or did you really sit with that for a minute? Because that's some truth. Like, I am a sarcastic person, and it's an easy way for me to move past something, whether it's a compliment or like, I don't feel like being sad about that. Let me just be sarcastic and move past it. But like, if you're not owning that, you know what I mean? Because it's again uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or sometimes too, therapy don't work because people have fixed ideas around it. Well, in life, but around therapy too.
Right.
So if you feel like if you've already decided sarcasm is just the only reason I do sarcasm is because I think it's funny. If someone introduces something totally different from that, you're going to have a hard time in therapy.
Yeah, you're just going to avoid it. You're going to have a barrier already before going in. Yeah, I feel like that's what, because like I hear people talk about therapy, like I said, both ways, good and bad. But I feel like you said, if you going from therapist to therapist, it's like, hold on, now you got to take a step back, because I know at least one of them therapists was good. Like you just got to take a step back and look at yourself. Like, why am I going to this many therapists and I can't figure out? So I definitely feel like you got to just be accountable in that point. But like you said, there are some therapists that aren't good or whatever. But it's like, if you go into multiple, like, that's on you at some point. And I always go back to this with the rape case. Like, that's where I found my peace as far as like being able to stay in the fight. Like, because I looked at what I had to do with the situation. Like, of course, there's no way in hell it should have gotten to a rape case, right? But why did it get to a rape case in the first place? Not why specifically, like it got to a rape case, but how did that even come about? It's because I chose to be with the girl I was with. So it's like, as far as me looking back at that, where was my responsibility? Where was my responsibility? Where was my accountability? That's what kept me at peace, because it's like, I can't just keep saying, oh, it's hers. Where was my fault? Where did I go wrong? So now I can understand certain parts of it, and now I can keep going through the fight, because I know, like, I believe in God. I trust in God. I'm going to pray. But also I know what I had to do, and I'm honest with myself. So now I can cope with it, and I can keep fighting against what I know I didn't do. You know what I'm saying? So I think people definitely need to own their shit in the hardest of situations. Like, that's like you said, the uncomfortable part. That's the part where you need to own up the most. Like, because when you're just comfortable, like you said, it's gonna surpass for a little bit or whatever. It's temporary, but that shit is gonna come back or keep building up, and then it's just gonna explode. So people need to realize that for sure.
Yeah, they're real. And in terms of therapy too, I learned to have characteristics or things that I was looking for in a therapist. So for me, it was insight. Like, if you are vulnerable and you're disclosing and you're sharing, then that made me know that, okay, so you have an ability to see the real in a situation versus just coming at me from book knowledge. That was important to me.
Yeah.
So when I started therapy over, I would ask the therapist questions about their life experiences. Yeah, I know you obviously have a degree, so you have the training and all that. That's well and good. But what is the most painful thing you've experienced?
Was there any that weren't trying to answer?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they was
so it's like,
fired.
how you a therapist and you can't even take a question that's getting into
Literally, you
you?
can't.
That's
Bye.
crazy.
It was so quick. When I tell you I was out of there, I was gone.
Yeah,
Because
that
it's
is
I
wild.
am coming in here with the rawest things,
Hmm.
the most vulnerable things, and you can't answer a question for me.
Yeah,
Do
and
you
you want me
validate?
to?
Do you validate? Okay, because I'm gonna go ahead. No, it's been real, sis. Charge the whole hour. I'm not gonna sit here. You gonna charge it
Yeah,
anyway. I don't need to waste my time. Go ahead and go.
right. Yeah,
And I leave.
that's crazy. Go ahead.
So, and if you don't mind me asking this question, so do you feel like you're healed from like all your childhood trauma?
Good
Like,
question. I feel like I am 90% healed. I think there are some things that I have done that I have to forgive myself for. Even if I was made to do it or felt like I was doing it for a good reason, it still like was hurtful to people or, damaging. And I feel like I always want to leave room that I'm not healed just so that I can stay assessing myself because I don't ever want my experiences to make me feel unhealed, or I don't want to automatically say I'm unhealed because I have these experiences. So prime example, for the long, like I am at a place, I feel like in this life, I don't need anyone but my kids. And that's like not a normal thing. I feel very detached a lot of times. And there's people that I feel like blessed enough that was just like, we not hearing that, let's go to dinner or and it helped me to realize the benefit of opening up. But I was old when I reached that conclusion. I was like 35, you know what I'm saying? And I'm 42 now. So it's like, but that's, if you'd have asked me before, I would have said, yeah, I'm totally healed. Now I'm like, I feel like I'm healed, but I know that there are scars. And so I don't know that the impact, I feel like the impact stays with you, even if the pain doesn't. So that's why I said 90%, because I'm trying to leave room for something that I think I'm good on and gotta be like, actually, sis,
Yeah, I mean, like you always can get better in that
Yeah.
sense. So I get what you mean by that for
Yeah.
sure. It's just
That's one
like
thing
you
I'll
heal
start.
from it to not like make excuses or make decisions about it from those emotions or whatever that you felt back then. But it's
Mhm.
just like you still have that in your mind somewhere. So where it's like I can keep getting better at this, or I can keep doing this, or I can open up a little bit more or whatever. So
Yeah.
I understand that for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Got another question?
And the reason that I asked that because like for my personal self, I feel like I experienced a lot and been through a lot. Um and I felt like since I kind of figured it out on my own, like I journal, I pray a lot. And I forgive the people, that may have, brought the trauma. And I also understood my part to play in it. Um and I don't feel no type of way towards nobody. And at first, when
Yeah.
I was a little younger, I used to be like, I would be like, man, I ain't mad at them. But it would still come up and they would still irritate me, like when I would think about the situation. But now, like
Mhm.
wholeheartedly, I could just say, like, I don't feel like no type of way, like towards nobody. But I
Yeah.
feel like that I don't know if I'm truly, I guess you could say, like healed because like I didn't get like professional help or because I don't know what truly healed really is. So that's really my thing.
Mm.
But like I think I'm like healed or it doesn't affect me because you know I, I I forgave them and I forgave myself. I understood my play in it and I understood their play
Mm.
in it. But like I just don't know. I guess I could say because like I don't know what healing like healed really is because like with
Mm.
especially like in the black community as a whole, but just like in my household, in my family, like those aren't the things that we talk about. We don't talk about trauma. We don't talk about healing. So like I don't really know what the expectation of healed is, and that's why I asked you that.
Yeah. I love that though. I love that you're unpacking it to that degree. I feel like therapy is just one avenue. I don't know, but I feel like if you tried everything else and you haven't tried therapy, that's where my push typically come in the general. Because you're right, and even in our community, there's people like call me white because I advocate therapy. I've been called white my whole life though. So it just depends on who is around. But I feel like healed is when you can remember and not hurt. Like that to me, if you are in a place where you can remember and recall, but you don't revisit the pain, then that's when I talk about healing, that's how I describe it. So I don't know um, if that fits your situation, but I guarantee that if you decide like this is what I will be satisfied with for healing, and you set those metrics, when something comes up and it moves you out of that, you'll know like, oh, okay, there's an element that I need to get fixed. There's an element I need to continue to journal about or pray about or forgive about. But that's what I would say around um, healing is that, if you can revisit it and not, if you can recall it, but not, be in pain when you recall it, you're good. But that's just my metric. So feel free to apply it.
Yeah.
or not
I'll be-
come up with your own.
No, that's elite. I'm gonna start telling people that, like, that I come across that are, because I got a couple people I know right now off the top of my head when you said that. Like, it's just
Yeah,
anytime they talk about it, they cry, or anytime they talk about it, it's like you're not healed from it. Like, let
yeah,
that cry out. Like,
yeah,
until you can do that. And then sometimes, like, you talk about it, you could like tear up or cry, but
yeah,
still be able to talk. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
If you're crying to the point where you can't even talk, you gotta stop. You're not
yeah,
really healed from that. But
yeah,
I know, like, if somebody passed or something, like, if you
yeah,
you just think about it, you cry, like, you could still be healed from it, but it's just,
yeah.
you
In
know
that
that person
moment,
or whatever. Yeah.
yeah.
But like, if you
And I
can't
think
talk or
too,
whatever, that's crazy.
when there's levels to healing.
Yeah.
So, like, even if you think about how a scar forms, it's not just the
Yeah.
one and done.
Right.
It comes together.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that sometimes healing can be a process. I don't think it's like linear. I think it's very much like this. And like, because if I talk about being molested or raped, I can talk about it factually. If I'm watching SVU though, and some stuff pop off, I have to get out the room. When I was
Yeah.
watching Precious, I'm like, y'all should have issued a trigger warning because that was throw up sickening for me.
Yeah, that movie. I ain't even been
Wild.
through nothing like that, and I
Yeah,
feel
it was
just like
wild.
I'm like I feel weird like watching it, like, because I
Yeah,
never even experienced or like
yeah,
knew anybody that experienced anything like that.
yeah.
That shit
So
was
I feel like I have, not by the dad and the mom, because to this day Monique made me think twice about taking her up top. Like she acted so well in that movie. But I
yeah,
have been violated and I know how that feels. And the imagery and the way that they portrayed it without showing it. If you are a survivor, it is penetrating. And I feel like I'm healed. But when I watched that movie, I've never watched it again. When I watched that movie, I was in the theater full fledged, I mean, sweating, bawling. My OSU looked maroon because all of the red was saturated. I was boo hooing. I can't say that I'm not healed from it, but if you make me revisit it and it was traumatic, I may have a reaction to it.
right.
So it just
Yeah,
depends. But I think so, and that's hard too because it's like I just said, if you don't have the pain of it, like I could talk about it now because it's a fact. But if I'm there and I feel like I'm reliving it, that's when it's like
I was
I
about to
gotta
say
leave
that's
room for that 90% because I'm likely to have a reaction or even just a desire to remove myself. Like,
yeah,
I don't need to watch this episode. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I feel that. I watched it once myself and I never watched it again. It's crazy. Like,
It's
I
crazy.
literally I don't know. Like, when I watch movies and stuff like that, like, I don't know. I can't watch it for real. Like, I can, but it's just like I don't even want to. Like you said, I just
Yeah,
remove myself. I don't want to watch it. Like, I watched
yeah.
the movie. I don't know if y'all seen Detroit. You ever seen
No, I
Detroit?
heard it was like
Yeah,
triggering, and I was like, pass. I don't even want to know
yeah.
why.
I don't watch movies like that ever. So, like, I seen a couple movies like talking about racial stuff and all that, but like that one, when I watched that, now I don't watch any other movies when it come to like racial tension and all that stuff. Like, I can't, like, because
That's
then it'll just make
understandable.
me like pissed off, you know what I'm saying, like that, and I just don't want to be. So I'm just like, I'm cool. But that movie, like Detroit, it was crazy. I'm just like, nah. So like anytime I
Yeah,
see anything like that, I just don't watch it. Like Get Out and all that stuff, and it may not
I've
even be
never
as
watched Get Out
crazy as
either.
any of it. Yeah, and they say like Get Out ain't like to where it make you like, but I just I don't want to see it just because of what I seen on Detroit. Like, I'm cool. So I'm cool.
I opt out completely.
It's crazy. But so I want to transition into like what you're doing now. Obviously you said you got a bachelor's and a master's. Was that from Ohio State?
So the bachelor's was from Ohio State. It was a Bachelor of Science in Social Work. I don't know. I became a social worker because I wanted to be the social worker I didn't have. But now I tell people don't do that. You can volunteer somewhere and go somewhere and make some money. So that's my plug. Like I am not dissing social work, but the stuff that we deal with, the secondhand trauma,
Yeah,
social workers are so underpaid. So
yeah,
I know, let me get off my soapbox because you was asking me about my degrees. So my bachelor's is from social work, a bachelor's of science in social work is from OSU. I have a master's in public policy and administration from Keller University. And so right now I have a book. It's called Life After a Detour: Firsthand Advice for Empowering Teen Parents. I'm actually re-editing it because I did a self-publish, and the publishers provide editing, but then they did it. So I'm like, what did I pay for? Because this is not it. Respectfully. But they are working with me to re-edit it, so I'm very appreciative of that. I also have an ebook coming out for that same book because I recognize as a mom, very rarely do you get to sit down and have time to read, especially if you have little kids. And there's a curriculum that goes with that. So for moms who, like Dejan, you asked about moms making excuses, and if so, there's some work that can go along with that that can support them moving from excuses, to excellence, or excelling. Because I don't want to say excellence, like my, because of me, they'll reach total excellence. I also continue to speak. So I'm speaking at Kent University in January to foster children and caregivers. So I'm speaking to them in January and March. And then I speak at a group for moms called Mommies Matter. I'm going to speak to them a couple times a year just to support their growth. We talk about different topics. We talk about red flags in dating. We talk about goal setting. We talk about just things that kind of go along in line with the book. And then I'm writing a book about foster kids, and then like cultivating youth voice. And because I talk to youth too, and so I feel like that's something that I feel like gets lost because a lot
Yeah.
of times when you're young, I feel like older people surmise what should be happening or what you should be thinking or what you should be feeling as 15, 17, even a 20-year-old, and tell you. And then they have values attached to that and they judge you according to that. And in that whole process, you ain't had no conversation with me. You don't understand my perspective. You're not trying to. And so it's even harder if you're a foster child because now none of these people know you, but they're trying to tell you about how you should be feeling, thinking, acting. And if you this, or if you loved yourself, or if you like, ma'am, you don't even know what that looks like for me. How I love myself looks totally different. So those were some of the things that I currently have underway, and really praying to honestly decide what part of it's coming off my plate because I also work at a national nonprofit as a trainer, and so it's like I'm tired. I'm just tired. Like, and I have a podcast as well. It's called Life After, and it's just about resilience. It's like where life and resilience intersect. And we're on hiatus right now because of the holidays, but we talked about forgiveness. That was my highest rated show. It's
Forgiveness.
resilience and forgiveness, and who would even thought? But like everybody got somebody they're gonna have to forgive and really work through for their own healing. But anyway, so that's some of the stuff that I have
Yeah.
going on.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
I see why you tired.
tired.
So your life after,
Yeah.
because you said life after detour is your book,
Mm-hmm.
and then life after is your podcast. So like,
Yeah,
what does that
Life
mean?
After
Like,
is my
cause life
podcast.
after
Mm-hmm.
is that tie into the resilience
Yes.
piece, like life after? That's
Yes.
what that
So
means.
it initially started out just like life after um, a breakup, or life after death, like losing a loved one, or life after foster care, or life after DV. So it was just all these different things where something happens, but how do you
Hmm.
have life after that? What does that look like? What does your next look like? And so
Yeah.
that's what the show is about. But I have a show coming out with my daughter, and I'm excited about it because it's about just more of a like a just a generic regular conversation, less heavier topic. So
Yeah.
um it's called
That's gonna be
Babbling
my
Over
next
Beverages.
question.
Huh?
That was gonna be my next question. Like, how your kids were doing? Like, uh,
They're doing well. My daughter just moved home because she's moving into a new place. She is 26. She is at Ohio University because she wanted to kill her mother, who's a Buckeye. Well, no, they gave the best scholarship. So
Yeah.
let me get out my feelings. But she is going for communication and I want to say marketing or finance. I know it should be lawyer, but she's an adult, so she can choose against me.
Yeah.
And I only say that because she
Man,
wrote the best legal brief in the state. Like
man,
she is
man, you better get
brilliant,
that
but
lawyer, man. She would make killing.
I
I want her.
know, but it's just like, oh, you do want to be happy. That counts. My son is 27. He is actually autistic and he has a podcast as well. And so he just goes on there and creates space for people that just want to be an ally or that just want to have communication and conversation with people in that space. And so he's just working. He had his own place. The rent started to be disrespectful, so he came back home because rent's $1,200. It's like, what? I could go home for that. Like, you sure can. You always come back here. And then I have an 8-year-old, and so he is a singer here. So he just does covers and he does street performing with his brother, who is called the Saxation. So his name is Dylan. My son's name is Elias. And so they're doing well, all things considered.
Yeah, that's good. Um, so you said your son is autistic. I just want to
Mm-hmm.
ask a question because, like, I don't really know what autism is. Like, what is
Mm-hmm.
autism?
Sure.
Is it like a higher case or like a higher, like, is there a difference? Like, is it all just one level or is it like higher level, lower level? Like, how does that
Yeah,
work?
it's levels to it. They're still studying it and learning about it. So it's really a social disorder, where they see things or do things differently. It's a sensory thing, and so they experience it a little differently. So some things my son is like dead on, like he could tell you the stats of all the teams and presidents and stuff, but then he'll forget to lock the door. Like it's just like a
Okay.
different thing, and so that's a whole other testimony right there. But
Yeah.
so he is, so autism is like an umbrella, and then it's like Asperger's, sensory, like there's a whole bunch of different offshoots. So he's Asperger's, so he's high functioning
Okay.
autistic. So he has a job. He was in college at Columbus State at one time. He's looking to learn how to drive. So pray for me, keep me in your prayers. Goodness, because these card, as Columbus
It's more
expands,
about people that can't drive than you
yes,
driving.
and he's just like, oh, I could go over there. Hey, man, eyes on the road.
Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to get to Jesus early, and
Yeah.
that's yeah. So just keep us in prayer. But yeah, so that's what
Yeah.
autism is, and I think he's navigating it well.
That's good. I'm glad
Yeah,
your kids are well. You
yeah,
had spoke on it like you want to have a podcast with your daughter and like talking about youth having a
yeah,
voice. Like that's what we want to do too. Like we had,
yeah.
man, I'm sorry, we had I had my son on and his
Okay,
teammates because we trained them
okay.
like 16, 17. We did like was it like 2 hours? We had like 2 hours worth of
Yeah, it was like
recording, but
two
it
hours.
messed up. It
Oh,
the
that is
whole thing messed up.
devastation.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
but we wanted to have them on just to like have their voice because it's like we be getting to the point, obviously, like we train them and like we love them, but we get to the point like where we get frustrated and like, man, why the fuck did you do that? Like
yeah,
that's just dumb as hell. But it's just like they have not even, I mean, sometimes, most of the time it's excuse, not even gonna lie, but like sometimes it's just like that's what they feel like they should do, or like
yeah,
that's just what their generation thinks is right or whatever. So it's like we want to understand like why you think that, like why you do
yeah,
this, why you do that. So and then we supposed to have more kids on from Ohio high school and stuff like that. So I definitely like want to get like kids respect because this generation, yeah, is until they explain some shit that just makes sense to me, like they fried. Like I don't
yeah,
get
yeah.
it.
It's a different situation with these kids.
It- it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got another question?
Yeah, so I had one. So with you going through like all the experiences that you had within your life, do you and I don't know if this is too personal, but and if it is, you don't have to answer it. But do
Okay.
you sit and talk to your kids about things like as in just like their mental health? I say like, do you guys sit and talk about like just how are they doing, letting them voice their self like in a respectful way? And I
Yes.
asked that question because I feel like now like in the home, and we had asked the players that like, do you feel like you guys can like are comfortable with talking to your parents about like anything? And I say for myself, like it was certain things like as a kid I didn't talk to my mother about. So I
Mm,
just wanted to know like, do you talk to like do your kids go like do you guys have those conversations?
yes. I was deemed a bad mom because I was talking to my kids early about like everything. Because I feel like I would rather have an honest conversation with you and there's boundaries about it than you go out here and get some foolishness from someone who presents like they know what they're talking about. Like, oh, he 19, he got all the babes. Like, them chicks is fine. He must know what he's talking about. Like, no, he's an idiot. Okay. He just stumbled onto someone who don't know her worth yet. That don't mean what he's saying is true. So to answer your question, we talk about everything. My daughter was a virgin until college. And she knows I tell the story, so I'm not like to put her business out there. But she would ask me when she's 15, she's like, Mom, a lot of my friends are having sex. What does it feel like? Like, am I, and as a mom, I'm like, fuck. But, but I talk all this big stuff. Like, you can come talk to me about anything. And so
Yeah. Then
she
when they actually
sat
come,
down
like,
and told me
wait,
it.
hold
I
on.
said, listen, here's the deal. Your friends probably ain't experiencing what they'll experience in their 20s and 30s and 40s. Let's just start there. They're grambling around. I don't think you should waste it. I don't think you should waste it, is what I told her. I said there's parts about it that will feel good. And so then we talked about just any feelings that she was having. And then we got real about it. Like, it only takes one time to get HIV. It only takes one time to get herpes. It only takes one time to have a baby. I said, look at mom, like I was a teenage mom twice. And my parents still didn't talk to me about sex. My mom's sex talk was, bitch, don't do it.
Right.
Did that work? You have to say after the first one, you thought somebody would sat me down. No. And that's what she said. Like, well, you had sex. I did because I was curious. And I
Right.
liked the power and the control. It wasn't even about the physical piece for me because I had lost that when the other things had happened. So when I started to consent to that, it was for a totally different reason. And so we talked about smoking and drinking when it was prom night. I said, listen, it's gonna be some stuff floating around. There's somebody gonna pass you a blunt, and I'm telling you right now, if you didn't see him roll it, you can't smoke. I'm just telling you right now. If you don't know him, you don't indulge. If
Right.
you sit your drink down, it's done. You might as well act like you ain't even have one. And so we had to have those real conversations because I need you to understand, right? I need you to understand that you got to come home safe to me. That was the agreement that me and my kids made. And in order for them to do that, they got to know how to come home. They got to know what
Oh,
safety really look like. You know what I mean? And so I love that y'all are having these conversations with these kids because I'm talking to this one kid. He's 18 and he's just out here raw having sex. I said, you ain't worried
wow.
about that? You're not worried about catching nothing? You're going to have a permanent bend in your penis. Like, something's going to happen. Why are you doing that? And he was just like, because I know the girl. And like, to this day, his parents will not talk to him about sex because they feel like that encourages him to do it. No, I said, no, he's knocking them down. Okay. He's lining them up, knocking them down. You have to talk to them. And if they don't feel comfortable about it, I know I couldn't talk to my mom about nothing. I couldn't even have an opinion in my house. And I was
That's back in
determined.
the day.
I
That's
feel
back in the
that.
day.
Black
That's how it
household, a child
was.
having an opinion, the devil is alive. Like, you don't have
Yeah.
your opinion is to make sure that homework is done. Like, you know how they talk. Like, it was just,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So they talk to me even to this day. And even when my daughter told me she lost her virginity, she just said it so casually that I wanted to smack her. What, what do you think this is, guys? You know what I mean? Like, you making me get outside my no. What do you think this is? And she's like, well, you said we can
Uh,
tell you. I'm like, yeah, you can, but brace me. You know what I mean? You just
right,
not telling me
brace
about
it.
everything. You got to
Man.
prepare me. And
That's crazy.
because that was the only rule I had. And so you can tell me anything, but I'm allowed to have a mom reaction. 5 minutes. I could be like, what the
Yeah.
fuck were you that? You know what I mean? And then I get to come
Then I
back
can calm down.
and we can have a conversation. So if anybody's listening, I invite you to try that on at your pace and your timing and pacing. But this world's
Yeah.
too crazy for kids to not feel like they can talk to people.
Yeah, especially because it's just like it's so much access. Like I feel like that's, I mean, obviously, like the the furtherness with it, like not having an opinion, all that. Like we should have an opinion, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously respectful opinion as kids,
Right.
like back in the day. And
Yeah.
then we didn't talk about stuff because it wasn't accessible. Well,
Mm.
some points we should have talked about stuff. Like we should have been open with our feelings and all that, like
Yeah.
with Black families. But at some point it was like we didn't have access to stuff early, so it's like we didn't need to know yet. Now
Mm.
kids can go on YouTube and look up anything. So it's like they're gonna have questions. So you need to have those real talks with them. Like you
Yeah.
can go on YouTube and see, should not even just YouTube. You can go on Instagram, TikTok,
Yeah.
anything, and see sex. You can see
Yeah.
gun violence. You can see domestic violence. You can see all type
Yeah.
of shit that's going
Yeah.
on in the world. So it's like you can't wait till they 19, 20, 21 to be talking about smoking and drinking.
Mm.
You gotta talk to these kids at fucking middle school, smoking and
Facts.
drinking, the sex and
Facts.
all that shit. So it's like you gotta have those uncomfortable conversations with your kids for sure. Like you said,
Yeah.
being early on rather than later
Before they
waiting.
need
Like,
it.
man,
Yeah.
I do that shit all the time. Like I'm talking
Yeah.
to these kids like they adults. Like
Yeah.
they need to know because that shit
Yeah.
can happen at any point in time. And I
Because
tell
they're
all
moving
my
like they
kids,
adults.
yeah, man,
Honestly.
for real.
Yeah.
And I tell my
They're moving like
kids
they adults.
and all the
Yeah.
kids that I tell all the kids that I train too. Like I have like a great amount of respect for like the parents that are telling them the shit
Mm.
because there's some kids that talk to me and understand, and there's
Mm.
some kids that don't when I'm talking.
Mm.
But I tell them like, bro, when you walk out the door, nobody cares for you more than your parents do. Like them is
Big
the people who
facts.
care the most about you. Like, yeah, I care about you and all that stuff, but like your
Yeah.
parents, this is the one who care about you the most. So if you got a
Mm.
question, go ask them. And if they can't answer that question for you, get them to answer it. Like do something about it. Make them feel uncomfortable too. Like, because
Mm.
like you said, when you said earlier in the podcast, if you can't heal yourself, like if there's some trauma there, like it's gonna
Mm.
bleed on your kids. So it's like
Right.
at that point in time, if you asking your parents and they got trauma or they feel uncomfortable or something, like there's something there that needs to be done with them too. So they
Mm.
may, if you ask them that uncomfortable question, they may realize like, damn, I need to heal myself, or I need to get comfortable with like myself of being uncomfortable, and then that'll help
Mm.
your family grow. But I
Mm.
definitely agree with the talking to your kids early because it's crazy out here. Like you
Yeah.
gotta be knowledgeable of everything that's going on in this world for
You
sure.
do.
And that's the thing, like with them though, like these kids are way more vocal. Like
Mm.
I remember as a kid, like I couldn't say, like I wasn't even allowed to say lion. Like I had to say you telling a story.
Yeah.
Like it was so many things. Like I couldn't say hell. Like I could not say. It
Yeah.
was so many things I couldn't say.
Yeah.
And like it was a thing of what happens in the house stays in the house. Like
Oh yeah.
like
Yeah.
always, like I'd be like the way these kids are so much more vocal, and it's funny because that's why I get the confused part of like these kids are vocal about certain things to their parents, but not like the tough talks. And I
Mm.
think I just get confused with that. So it's like y'all, I be telling them like y'all have the opportunity to voice y'all opinion, but y'all don't. But
Yeah.
it's like when you really, and then it's like sad because like and I was a trainer back in Ohio before I just moved to Houston, and I was
Mm.
working with like a handful of kids. And like when you really sit and talk to the kids, like a lot of these kids are hurting.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like a thing of at first I was like, I don't know if I have the answers because like I felt like in my head to be like a mentor, it was about I had to be like success and I had to be this successful man. But it was like,
Mm.
no, it was I realized it was more of like the experiences. Like I've been through a
Mm.
lot and I knew how to handle the experiences and I got through it. So it was like boom, like I was able to talk to them about a lot of things. And any of the players now, like I always like, how are you doing mentally? How are you doing? Like, how are you doing mentally? How are you doing physically,
Yeah.
emotionally? And at first, it's funny because they not used to those words being asked to them. So like they be like, man, whatever, and they just like brush it off. But I
Mm.
wouldn't force it, but I just like throw it out there,
Yeah.
and like a lot of these kids, they just get the vent, and it'd be like damn, like Like I'd be like, damn, like you're hurting. And I had one of the kids, a couple, what was this, like a week or two ago, and I was just like, how you doing mentally and emotionally? And he's a kid, like he has like this tough act to him. And I really thought he was gonna give me like a little short message. And like he just sent me this big old paragraph. And it was just like, damn, like you're hurting. And it was like, man, you're really going through a lot. And it was like you don't have nobody to talk to about this. And like we talked for a little bit, and like afterwards he just felt, I asked him, like, do you feel better with that? Because he was honest too. He's like, yeah, I feel a little bit better. I have a more of an understanding. And I was just like, you're 19, like, and it was like he's putting pressure on himself, and he wants this expectation because of the internet, because he
Yeah.
sees all the things that the internet and all this, and he's like, man, like I'm failing from the internet's expectation. But I'm like, no, you weren't even set up to be at the level that you're at of life now. Like, so I was like, you need to be proud of yourself and pat yourself on the back. It's good that you want more for yourself, but I said right now you're in a perfect position right now where you're at. But I just said all that to say, like, I think it is very important for parents to talk to their kids, uncles to talk to their nephews, and aunts to talk to. Like, it's important to talk to these kids because like a lot of them are hurting, and it could solve, I feel like, a lot of problems within the Black community and in the world as a whole, but really in the Black community, because like when you just get to really understand these kids, it's like, man, like y'all really are going through a lot. But they need that consistent person, and I realized that with even myself, they need consistency. They need it. Like these kids really, and there are a handful that do like the material things, but a lot of these kids really don't care about that stuff. They just want somebody to really be there for them. Like, and I was
Even
a
if
person
they
that
try
was
to act
so,
like they don't, they do.
Right.
yeah, and they do, and it's so funny because like a lot of them try to put this tough act on, and I get them like, nah, bro, I know you. Like I know that ain't you, and it'd be like, I know, and like even the little gangster ones sometimes. Some of them I don't mess with. Some of these,
Yeah.
but like ones I know, I be like, bro, like I've never been like no hood dude, but I grew up in like poverty areas, so like I know real, like I've seen it. So I'm like, nah, bro, and I get them like, bro, you ain't no gangster. You ain't
Yeah.
just that. So
Yeah.
and then it'd be like, and they like, man, be quiet. They like, I ain't brush it off. Be like, nah, you not about to get me with
You know
that.
what that
You
looks
can
like
hit
for
these
real.
other folks with that, but you can't get me with that. So, and I think that's what I think I'm relatable to them, and I understand them, and I think that's the biggest thing. Like people just need them. People want to be understood, and they
Yeah.
want to be able to know, like you're not just hearing them, but you're really listening to what the words that they're saying. And I just feel like that would just solve a lot of problems. Not all problems, but I feel like that would solve a lot of the minor, like some minor ones that we do have, like in the community. Um,
I agree.
Yeah,
but
that's
I
why we
just like
made
that
this
you
podcast,
voice
man.
your kids can voice their opinion. I think that's really dope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
love
made
that
the
you said they're
podcast
more
for that.
vocal.
We
Yeah.
made the podcast so people from all different aspects, like call it different views, who we want different views of life, different experiences. Like our first Black woman on, like we had people
Yeah.
from the league, we got people from. It's crazy because we had a dude on. He's from our area in high school, Ellery. We had him on, and we knew about his story and stuff, but then because he would come talk to us, like because we went to the same high school he went to, he would come
Okay.
talk to us. But obviously, like when you're talking to a team, you don't go into detail about everything. So when we had him on, he started talking about like how he was selling bricks and doing that and got arrested and all. And we like, damn, we didn't even know all that. He got 4 kids.
Man,
Like,
I
you
was
know what I'm
like,
saying?
hold on.
Like, whoa, I thought you was just selling
What?
weed. Like,
Yeah.
my boy was selling bricks. Like, crazy. But like just saying like he got to express his story, like so people could hear it. But like you said, that different experience, like some people that's going through that can see that, like people that's going through shit with their kids. Because like I didn't even realize that he had a bad relationship with his kids, because like when I see him with his kids now, it's like they tight. But before that, he said he wasn't a good father. His son didn't even want to talk to him and stuff. It's just like
That's
having
real.
that avenue of like people hearing that, because there's people out here that their kids don't want to talk to them or whatever, going through trauma like you have, and being able to have resilience, talking to the youth like what we
Yeah.
did. I'm sorry we didn't get the damn video, but we're gonna get it. But
Yeah.
just having them on, but just different aspects of life, like different views, like that's why we made the podcast, so like people can really come on here and express themselves, so we can get it out to somebody that may be going through the same thing, or that maybe even if we just talking about like success or like getting there, or like what somebody's doing, maybe somebody's trying to get to that route. Like I feel like we just need to talk more. And then again, like he said, it's about like the whole world. It's about not just the Black community, but we're Black. Like we support our black people, we support everybody
Mm,
in the world, but like we need to have a black community get better because
mm,
it's just not getting better right now. And like
yeah,
people think it's corny to talk about your feelings. People think it's
yeah,
corny to like say how you feel or like have a heart to heart. Like, nah, that shit is real, man. That shit's gonna help
mm-hmm,
you grow. So I feel like
yeah,
people definitely need to understand that shit.
yeah,
Um, but let me shut up. Let me
yeah.
go on
It's good though.
with you. I just wanted to get your book and your podcast and everything, like everything that you said you're doing right now, and just explain it again so people can know like where to look and find you and what book to look out for. Because you say you're creating another book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just
Yes,
all your stuff that you're doing right now, just so you can get it out and we can like promote it and everything for you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So my podcast is on Spotify, and it's called. You have to type life period after period because otherwise there's so many. It's a word search that pulls in everything. And use my name, and that definitely will help you. My website is www.deannajspeaks. So DEANNA, J is in just speaks, .com. And so a lot of my information is on there, where you can see my podcast, buy my book, buy any merch. I have merch on there. That
What was it, boss queen? What is it?
the
It's in the
bounce back
shirt.
queen,
Bounce back queen.
bounce back queen, yeah. Because sister done bounced back a couple, 2, 3 times. And it's just, and I created this shirt because I created mainly for when I go to shows, and sometimes people want to just connect in a way that I didn't expect, and so I created this shirt. So it's like when you need that reminder, what I mean, you're a bounce back queen too. Just you bouncing back from different things, but you still bouncing back, and you keep doing it. So yeah, but all of that is on my website, www.deannajspeaks.com. And you can buy my book on there. I tried to take it off Amazon, but lost that fight. So I try to direct people to my site, and not on Amazon. But either way, I'm fine.
Then
Yeah.
what's the book that you're creating?
So the book I'm creating, I can't say the title yet because it hasn't gone through copywriting, but
Okay.
it's around building, helping providers build capacity to engage youth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, make sure y'all hit her up, man. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
check out that book, the one that
Yeah.
you first day. You said it's Life After Detour, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go check
So
that out.
when you order
Is
it
there
from me, I sign it.
is
Because
there
it's in the box.
is there like a link to your podcast on your website?
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
gonna go check that out too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, if you want to have me on, I know he would come on, but you just gotta know his schedule. But I definitely will come
Okay.
on anytime. Just let me know for sure.
Okay. I
I
appreciate
appreciate
y'all
you.
because I will be
Yeah,
reaching out.
yeah, for sure. I appreciate you coming on for sure. Uh, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you,
We
brother. I
was talking
appreciate
about this the
that.
other day. Like it's weird when you say you're proud of you to like people that's older than you, whatever. But it's just like you gotta hear that shit. Like
Yeah.
it's like one of those things. Like I said, when it's like it feel uncomfortable or it feel weird, like that's when you need to
Mm.
do it. Like, but no,
Yeah.
I love just telling people like I'm proud of them because some people
Yeah.
don't hear it or just need to hear it again, and it just helps them get confidence or like build more confidence or just make them feel good,
Right.
whatever. But again,
Yeah.
like I'm proud of you for
Thank
everything
you.
that
I
you've been through
appreciate
and
that.
having that resilience and doing all that you're doing. Like you said, there's times where you because I got to a space like that. Like I feel like you were just talking about a lot of stuff, and like you said, you went through a different experience, but you're still talking to me as far as like what you're going through, like the situation, like resilience or getting back up or
Yeah.
comfortability, uncomfortability, whatever. But like what you said about like having all that, but still not feeling like you're there, like still feeling like that confidence or whatever, feeling that peace or whatever, like you had the bachelor's, the master's, whatever, you still had that like imposter syndrome. And I didn't
Yes.
have that to that extent, but it's just like I have hella money. Like I made it to the NFL. I had hella
Mm.
money and all that shit, but it's just like I wasn't like at peace, you know? Like
Mm.
I was happy, of course I was happy because I was kicking and having fun or whatever. But I just told my fiance like 2 days ago, like
Mm.
right now I haven't played in 3 years. So I haven't had an income in 3 years. So it's like
Mm.
I've been working through my injuries. I had like 6 surgeries. But
Yeah. Lord.
I basically haven't had no income in 3 years, but I've been able to live off what I made from the NFL. And I
Mm,
told her, like, this is the most peaceful I've been, like, without football. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So I just felt like you were talking to me when you said, like, you had all that, but still didn't feel up here with it. You know what I'm saying? Now that
Mm,
I didn't even have what I thought I wanted the whole time, like, I've been at more peace and been happy. I've been
mm,
able to spend time. I've been able to watch my kid grow. You know what I'm saying? Like, my
mm,
first kid,
yeah.
he and his mom worked together, so I didn't really get to see him as much as I wanted to and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I got to see my second son born, actually. That was my first
Okay.
experience of, like, birth. And then I've been with
Oh.
him for 2 years. Like, so again, like, I just appreciate you coming on here and speaking, like, to me, as far as, and
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, anybody that watches it will appreciate it too. But yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so
You can
much for
say
having
whatever you
me.
want,
I'm
bro.
proud of y'all for having a platform for me to come on to. Y'all got me beat with
Yeah.
this Riverside. I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
borrow that a little
Riverside,
bit,
nice.
man.
Riverside, nice.
Let's go.
You can say
But no,
whatever you want.
I'm very appreciative and thankful that you came on. I was telling him, I think it was Thursday or Friday when I was at his house. I was like, man, I'm excited. I can't wait to get her on and like really just get
Yeah.
to pick her
Thank
mind.
you.
Like I was excited because too you show the real reality. Like you really speak the truth. And I was listening to a couple your podcasts on your website. You had a it was like audio. And
Okay.
like I think now like I'm always big like the black community, and I think now like black women, especially the ones my age because I'm 24, they just see the internet, they don't see the real what a real black woman is like. And we always give praise to our moms,
Yeah.
but I just love that you're giving that voice, you're being able to like I can relate to you.
Yeah.
You're letting
Awesome.
them know like it's okay what you're going through. You're letting them know like don't look at the social media.
Yeah.
That's just a vision, a fake
Yeah.
vision that's not real. Like you're being able to really
Yes.
give them just that comfort that they need, that reality that they need. And I say it all the time, like there's not enough black women for me. Like there's not enough women mentors.
Mm.
Like these young women really need mentors. Like they really need to understand the value of themselves. So I'm just thankful that you have you're giving that platform, you're giving that
Thank
just that
you.
voice to them. But no, I appreciate you coming on for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I look forward to having y'all on my
Yeah, for sure.
podcast as well. I mean, I just feel like we have so much talent in community. I mean, talent in our
Yes.
community, and we can
Yes.
feed each other so much. So just being able to be a community with you all, I really appreciate it. Thank you for having
Yeah.
For
me.
sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you again.
Thank you. I hope you have a nice day.
Have
you
a great
too.
day.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.